I'm Timothy Vigil, and this is Just Another Word podcast, the Word of the Day podcast for storytellers. X is for xylophone. The difference between the almost right word and the right word is really a large matter. 'Tis the difference between the lightning bug and the lightning. Mark Twain. Let's be honest. When you're writing an alphabet of words, X is usually the moment you reach for the dictionary in a panic. Most of us know very few words that start with X, and so it is that we end up reaching for a word like xylophone, an instrument that most of us touched when we were in kindergarten or some other time in elementary school. And it's not a word that we would necessarily think to use in the high-stakes literary metaphor, but for a storyteller, xylophone is an interesting choice. A masterclass in texture and phonetic imagery. The word xylophone comes from the Greek, xylon, meaning wood, and phone, sound or voice. Literally, it is the voice of wood. Unlike a piano, which is metal strings, or drum, stretched skin, the xylophone is organic. It's the sound of impact on a resonant, solid surface. In our writing, we can use the idea of a xylophone to describe anything that has a rhythmic, percussive, yet hollow quality. It's a word that carries its own onomatopoeia. The X and Y sounds create a sharp, striking start, followed by the phone, which lets the sound ring out. One of the interesting ways that xylophone can be used in serious prose is through macabre whimsy. Because the keys of a xylophone look like ribs or fingers, it has long been associated with the imagery of skeletons. Saint-Saëns famously used the xylophone in Danse Macabre to represent the rattling of bones. As a writer, you can use this to create a layer of unease. Think of the metaphor. A character's thin chest might have ribs that showed through the skin like the keys of a xylophone. Or think of the atmosphere that xylophone can create. The sound of rain hitting a bamboo roof can be described as a frenetic wooden music, something that evokes the sense of the xylophone even if you're not directly naming it. X itself is an interesting letter. I think that it can often be difficult to use X in our writing without it feeling like a forced word of the day exercise. Even in going through this, I thought through X and found very few words that felt natural, like words I would enter into a story without trying too hard. But X itself can be an interesting tool. See, the hard X sound is rare in English. So if you use it when you want to poke the reader's attention, it can create a great way to draw people in. A xylophonic clacking of high heels on a hardwood floor is much more distinct than a loud clacking. Xylophone itself can also be used in an interesting way. We often associate it with childhood. Many of us had a toy xylophone when we were children if we didn't play the large one in elementary school. And because of this, xylophone can be a powerful objective correlative, or a physical object that represents emotion. A broken xylophone in a dusty attic tells a story of lost innocence, of the nebulous fading of time. This can create atmosphere, it can tell us more information about the character, and it can show us where we are in time. X can also be used rhythmically. When you want a sentence to feel progressive, look for X, K, and T sounds. You can build the rhythm of an instrument into the structure of your paragraph, creating a staccato effect that mirrors the striking of wood. And all of this is a great way to talk about how the letter X and xylophone can be used. But the last thing I would like to bring up is thinking about what it's like when we just can't quite find the right word. Twain talked about this, the difference between the right word and almost right word can be so fine but mean so much. And as I sat there searching for a word for X, xylophone kept coming to me. It's not really the right word for a Word of the Day podcast designed to try and help people see how they can use words in their storytelling, but it's the one that kept coming back to me. It wasn't the right word, but it was the almost right word, and it was the word that made sense. And I think this is a place that we can all learn. Sometimes we can't find the exact right word, but we should continue to seek, because when we get the words in just the right order, it does make a difference. Not necessarily because those words are perfect, but because those words are specific and intentional. So make sure when you're picking a word that that word is the intentional choice for your section of your story. See, because xylophone reminds us that even the most niche words have a voice if we know how to use it. It's the voice of wood, the sound of the skeletal, and the rhythm of the unexpected. So don't fear X, don't fear xylophone, and don't fear the word that you can't quite get right. Push through. Write it down with the wrong word and hope that the right word comes to you. But look for the moments where the world rattles or clacks and find the music in the hard surfaces by using this letter to your advantage. You have been listening to Just Another Word podcast with your host, Timothy Vigil. For more information, go to timothyvigil.com.